Have you ever heard of a group so feared that their name became the very word for a killer? A shadowy organization whose members would strike in broad daylight in the middle of crowded cities, disappearing as quickly as they appeared? They were the stuff of nightmares for kings and sultans, a legend whispered in fear across continents. Today, we're diving deep into the sands of time to uncover the true story of the Hashashin, the original assassins. Our story begins in the 11th century, a time of turmoil and conflict in the Middle East. The Seljuk Empire, a powerful Sunni Muslim state, dominated the region. But within this empire, a new religious and political movement was stirring. This was the Nizari Ismaili state, a branch of Shia Islam. Their leader was a brilliant, charismatic and enigmatic figure named Hassan-i Sabbah. Hassan was a missionary and a revolutionary. He wasn't born into power. He earned it through intellect and influence. After years of traveling and preaching, he saw an opportunity. In 1090, he and his followers seized the remote mountain fortress of Alamat, located in what is now modern-day Iran. This wasn't just any castle. Alamat was a nearly impregnable stronghold, perched high in the Alborz Mountains. It was from this eagle's nest that Hassan would build his state and unleash his most potent weapon, the Fedayeen. These Fedayeen, meaning those who sacrificed themselves, were the loyal followers of Hassan-i Sabbah. They were not just mindless killers, were highly intelligent, multilingual, and deeply devoted to their cause. They underwent rigorous training, not just in combat and disguise, but in theology, philosophy, and politics. They were scholars as much as they were soldiers. Their mission was to protect their small state from the mighty empires surrounding them. As they couldn't win on an open battlefield, they resorted to a different kind of warfare, psychological terror. This is where the legend of the assassins truly begins. The Hashashin didn't just eliminate their targets. They did so with theatrical flair. They would often infiltrate an enemy's court or military camp, living there for months, sometimes even years, gaining trust and learning secrets. They would wait for the perfect moment to strike, often in a public place, like a mosque or a marketplace, ensuring there were plenty of witnesses. The message was clear: no one is safe. No wall is high enough. No guard is loyal enough to protect you from us. One of their most famous targets was Nizam al-Mulk, the powerful vizier of the Seljuk Empire and one of Hassan-i Sabbah's greatest adversaries. In 1092, a Fedayeen disguised as a Sufi mystic approached the vizier's litter and stabbed him to death. This was a shocking act that sent ripples of fear throughout the Seljuk court. They also targeted Conrad of Montferrat, the king of Jerusalem, during the Third Crusade. Two assassins disguised as Christian monks got close to him and struck him down in the streets of Tyre. Even the great Saladin, the legendary sultan who fought Richard the Lionheart, was a target. He survived 2 separate assassination attempts, which reportedly left him so paranoid he slept in a specially constructed wooden tower for protection. But where did the name Hashashin come from? This is one of the most debated parts of their story. Popular legend spread far and wide by travelers like Marco Polo tells a fantastical tale. Claims that Hassan-i Sabbah would drug his young recruits with hashish, lead them to a secret garden filled with earthly delights, a paradise on earth, and convince them they had experienced a glimpse of the afterlife. He would then promise them a permanent place in this paradise if they carried out his orders. This story paints them as brainwashed fanatics, high on drugs. However, modern historians largely dismiss this tale as propaganda created by the Hashashin's enemies to discredit them. There's little to no contemporary evidence from Ismaili sources to support the hashish theory. The word Hashashin was likely a derogatory term used by their rivals, meaning something like rabble or outcasts. The idea of a drug-fueled cult was simply a more sensational story that captured the imagination of medieval Europe. The reality is that their loyalty came from deep religious conviction and devotion to their leader, not from narcotics. Hassan-i Sabbah ruled from Alamet for 34 years, never once leaving the fortress. He was a strict and ascetic leader, even executing his own sons for breaches of his law. He established a vast library at Alamat, turning it into a major center for learning and scholarship. This was not the den of a drug lord, but the capital of a state fighting for survival. After Hassan's death, his successors continued his policies. The Nizari state, with its network of mountain fortresses across Persia and Syria, survived for over 150 years, a constant thorn in the side of larger powers. They perfected the art of asymmetrical warfare, using fear and targeted strikes to level the playing field. Their agents were everywhere, their daggers a constant threat to the political and military leaders of the era. So what brought this seemingly unstoppable force to an end? The answer is an even greater, more destructive power: the Mongols. In the mid-13th century, the Mongol Empire, under the leadership of Genghis Khan's grandson, Hulagu Khan, swept across Asia with a ferocity the world had never seen. Their goal was total conquest, and the Nizari Ismaili state stood in their way. In 1256, a massive Mongol army arrived at the gates of Alamat. For all its defenses, the Eagle's Nest was no match for the Mongol siege machine. After a brief but hopeless resistance, the last leader of Alamat, Rukin Aldan Korshah, surrendered the fortress. The Mongols showed no mercy. They systematically destroyed Alamat and dozens of other Nizari strongholds. They burned the Great Library, and with it, most of the Hashashin's own records, history, and knowledge. It was a cultural catastrophe, leaving us with only the accounts of their enemies to piece together their story. The Fedayeen were hunted down and eliminated. The state that Hassan-i Sabbah had built from nothing was wiped from the map. The Syrian branch of the Hashashin survived a little longer under the Mamluk Sultanate, but their power was broken. They were reduced to mere tools for the new rulers, their legendary independence gone forever. By the end of the 13th century, the age of the Hashashin was over. But their legacy endured. The stories embellished and sensationalized, traveled back to Europe with crusaders and merchants. They morphed into tales of a secret society of killers for hire, a myth that would inspire countless books, games, and movies, most famously, the Assassin's Creed series. The true story of the Hashashin is far more complex and fascinating than the legends. They were not just assassins. They were builders of a state, scholars, and survivors who used a terrifying and effective strategy to defend their community against overwhelming odds. They were a product of a turbulent time, and their methods, while brutal, were a calculated response to the world they lived in. Their rise and fall is a powerful tale of faith, politics, and the enduring power of fear. So the next time you hear the word assassin, remember the mountain fortress of Alamat, the brilliant strategist Hassan-i Sabbah, and the devoted Fedayeen, who made their names synonymous with death itself. Their castles are ruins, and their library is ash, but the story of the Hashashin continues to echo through history. Thanks for watching. If you found this journey into the past as fascinating as I did, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the hidden corners of history. See you in the next one.